Okay, well, here we are, Benedikt.
Yeah, it's happening.
First episode. Yeah, first episode of the Slow and Steady podcast. So, I guess let's start at the beginning. Who are we, and why are we doing this?
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to start, give a short introduction, or do you want me to go first?
You go for it. Go ahead, man.
Okay, so my name's Benedikt. I'm not going to try to spell that. If you're interested in just look on the website or whatever. I'm a software engineer, and these days my time is basically split between consulting and working on my own product together with my amazing co-founders. It's called UserList.io, and it's a tool for software as a service companies to help with all their post sign-up messaging with their customers. So in a way, it's simpler than Custom.io, but way easier than building something on your own. Yeah, that's like the short version.
Cool. Who are those co-founders?
Oh yeah, the co-founders are Claire Solentrop and Jane Portman. Yeah.
Excellent.
Both super
talented.
And
I'll try to be as brief. That was really well done. My name is Brian Ray, and I do product and development consulting for startups. Also intending to split my time between consulting services and working on a SaaS product on the side. But not nearly as not making as much progress as I would want to. Currently doing, pardon me, working on it without co-founders, and so I'll just kind of segue into how we ended up here. Benedikt, is that I'm doing a podcast with early stage founders and folks who work with early stage founders. And my very first guest was Jane Portman. Third guest was Claire Solentrop. And so it was through them that Benedikt and I kind of connected, and I had reached out and said, hey, any interest in doing a Build It in Public podcast where we just share the journey and bring people along with us. And so we had about a 30-minute conversation last week, and we thought, yeah, let's do it. And
yeah,
so
definitely.
Here we are. This is episode
happening.
1. We'll see.
What's really fun about this is that we basically don't know each other yet.
Right. That's right.
We've met
we don't know each other
internet, but that's about it, right?
Yeah. That is about it. So I think that'll be fun along the way is, not only getting to know each other better, how each other thinks, but getting some input on some feedback and advice along the way on what exactly it is we're doing, how we're spending our time. So Benedikt, how about you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about what you're working on right now. You briefly mentioned what UserList is, but what are your goals for it, and where do y'all stand right now?
Yeah, so we started a journey with UserList almost 2 years ago already. Time flies. I think it was late 2017. Back then, Jane and I were working on her first software as a service product called Tiny Reminder. And but it was quite clear that it wouldn't be a huge success, and didn't make a lot of progress back then. And she got an offer to sell it, and that was I think for her it was the moment of relief, just seeing a way out of this inspired her to think about new stuff. And one of the problems she ran into with Tiny Reminder back then was that there wasn't a good way to basically do customer messaging and even just get an idea about who your customers are. And of course, there are options like Intercom and stuff who do similar things, but especially for an early stage product, they're way too expensive, and that's where the idea for user list came from. And when the sale went through, she basically asked me and Claire if we want to join her building this new product. And it
Mm.
took me a few days, but ultimately the experience working with her was so much fun that it was kind of a no-brainer to just jump in and do it. And since then, it's been an interesting journey with a lot of challenges. But if things go well, we are about to launch in like 2 weeks after this recording. So I don't know when this episode will be live, but like probably close to it.
Yeah.
And yeah, excited to finally get it out the door.
How are you feeling about that launch date?
Actually quite good, which is probably a sign that we waited too long. But like the product is up and running for a couple of months now. It's sending emails, it's working like it should, and it's
Uh-huh.
mostly just like a marketing thing, the launch now at this stage, just basically updating the marketing website to point to the sign up page instead of the pre sign up waiting list. So yeah, I'm feeling good about it.
Good then. That's good. So y'all are doing pre-launch signups. Are any of those people or like how are you doing beta testing right now?
We like initially we started like pre-selling it very early on, like even before we built a product, we started pre-selling it and got some. I think it was like 5 people interested in getting into the product, and after that, we actually built it and then started inviting them. And once they were kind of working, we started emailing the mailing list and asking people to join. And since about 2 months or so, 1 month, I don't quite remember, but we basically opened up the signups, but it's still behind that join our mailing list form. So the first email you get when you sign up for the mailing list is a link where you can sign up. So it's kind of open.
Okay. Yeah. And it's been that way for how long?
Probably a month or so. I don't quite remember
Okay.
the exact date, but yeah, it's interesting to see like people creating accounts without ever talking to us. Because before that, we
Mm-hmm.
would also do like a demo and basically handhold every customer through the journey,
Yeah.
through the sign up process. But when we made that change, we stopped doing that. And yeah, some people actually sign up.
Well, congrats. Or I mean, like launching it's a milestone. It's also kind of the easy part, right? Like now the real fun begins.
Yeah,
getting
definitely.
getting traction now.
Yeah, and me personally, I'm basically clueless. Like the milestone is a good like the launch is a good milestone, but like I have no idea what we're gonna do afterwards. What should we
Well,
be working
yeah,
towards? Like, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Who is gonna like how are y'all gonna manage that like the product management side of things and fielding support requests and prioritizing development work?
We're currently just like working on all of it together, more or less. Like
Yeah, yeah,
Jane's definitely the product owner, so to say.
yeah.
She has the vision and comes up like with a lot of concepts and stuff.
Hmm.
But we're still all involved in doing customer support, and even like during development, sometimes I just come up with an idea myself and then we tweak it together to make it
Yeah,
work. So it's very much a shared effort.
yeah. Good deal.
So yeah, why don't you tell a little bit more about your product?
Yeah. So the thing that I have launched and have been building is called Feature Audit. featureaudit.com, and it came out of a an article from Des Trainer that I read a number of years ago, that just connected to a personal experience I had had many times, running product for a couple of different startups, and then in some of the consulting and freelancing that I was doing, um, seeing it with my clients as well, which is just the idea of uh, you're sitting in a meeting and somebody's like, how often does somebody actually use that thing right there? And what's surprising is how many analytics tools exist right now, and yet how difficult it is to just get that one question answered. That particular feature, are most of the people using it most of the time they log in, or are very few of the people using it every time they log in, or is everybody using it but only seasonally?
Hmm.
And just getting to that answer. And so there was a really great article by Des Trainer, ironically of Intercom, who you guys are, kind of going after in a interesting way. Um, that just kind of pointed that out. That this is, that's the sort of something that you need to be able to answer. So feature audit I talked about this with Jane. It's meant to intentionally underdo all of the other analytics tools that are on the
Hmm.
market right now. You could get to this answer, um, that I'm trying to get to, with feature audit. You could get to it with Google Analytics or other overpriced tools like Intercom and so on. But what I'm trying to do is just make it like visually obvious in, like one simple visual chart that plots all of your all of the features that you connect to feature audit on an X and Y graph. Where across the bottom um, it's frequency of use, and up and down its popularity. And so, anyway, so that's what I'm working on, where I am completely stuck. And the challenge I've been trying to solve is, doing consulting work full time and finding time to keep feature audit moving forward. And so, yeah, I've tried all kinds of different combinations. Just blocking out Friday on my calendar and saying this is my 20% time or whatever. I've tried outsourcing a fair bit of it. That doesn't really work. So this is my main struggle, and I know it's one that a lot of uh, makers and indie hackers and everything struggle with as well. Is just the time management aspect of it.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just because it's finding it really hard to build up momentum. Like get into the code and like refamiliarize yourself with things and start to make some progress, and then like you win a good project, which is awesome. I have a mortgage.
yeah,
um, and then feature audit gets put off to the side for a little while. And so that's where I'm at. I would love to. I think the other thing I'll say about it is, I want to get it far enough along to know if there's actually something there or not.
mhm,
I'm interested in doing this podcast with you, and just following our stories over the next however long we stick with this. Um, but I'm not married to feature audit being the thing. I'm most interested in just recording the journey along the way of how do
yeah,
you
yeah,
discover if it is or not. Um, you know, there's a couple of other potential problems that I'd be interested in validating. That aren't necessarily feature audit.
yeah.
But it's certainly the one that I've done the most validation on, and it's I would love to get a little bit further in testing it.
Mhm. Is feature audit like the first time you try to build a product on your own, or do you have a track record
No,
of like,
no, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I would not call myself a full stack developer, um, just because like the amount of Googling and trial and error that I have to do on the back end is extensive, but full stack enough that, I mean, I can get it functional and get it together. So this is not the first thing that I've, built all on my own. It is the first. It's probably the furthest along in terms of, you know I guess that's just to say it, and just in terms of as much the effort that I've put into it, and how close it is to being ready,
Yeah, yeah,
for yeah, for the earliest people to start kicking it around. So
pretty cool. So what's missing? Like, what's missing to get some validation and people using it and maybe paying for it?
yeah, yes, excellent question. um, and so well, so I've opened it and closed it, to registrations a couple of times over the past year and a half, and have gotten some people to sign up, just through, uh, just finding it in random places where it's been mentioned, at this point. Even some of those people signing up for paid accounts. And so, but the reason that I've shut it back down and what I'm waiting for right now is that there are some fundamental bugs, with the actual with the graph, with the core competency,
Mhm.
of the application. And so, that I knew were there, that I have known have been there, but that aren't straightforward solutions.
Mm.
Um, but I had gone ahead and just opened it up a handful of times previously, just to see, okay, does the initial pitch on the marketing page make sense? Are people willing to go through a trial? Are they then willing to, convert to paid? What's that looking like? And, percentages of those conversions are within like industry benchmarks. But pretty quickly, getting feedback and support requests of, hey, this looks like it's not exactly working right. So yeah, okay, shutting it down, or not shutting it down, but closing it
Yeah,
back up to
yeah.
open signups. So that's it. Benedikt, is there are a couple of fundamental issues with that graph, that isn't like it's not like a 3 hours, put your head down, Brian, kind of, fix.
Mhm.
Feels more like I need a solid 3 straight fully focused days
Mm.
to try a batch of different, things on this. And it's just been very, very hard for me to either to find that time, or I think more so than finding that time, giving myself, the mental permission to put
Mhm.
client work aside and not work on the consulting thing for that. Anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, great question, and helpful for me to talk through that and think through it.
So are you fully booked these days with consulting engagements, or how does your time look like?
Yeah, well, so, I've right now I have work, which is good, but I'm not nearly as solidly booked, as I have been for a while now. And so I'm kind of, not kind of, I am, talking myself through, all right, we're going to intentionally underbook August,
Mm.
and maybe even September, and be comfortable with that, because I'm going to be putting time and a little bit of outsourcing, budget aside for some of the, like the deeper, like back endy DevOps, hey, optimize this database query for me,
Yeah.
like that sort of work, and I'll be over here like, hacking on JavaScript and fixing the way that this graph looks, but I need you to solve this part of the thing or work with me on solving this part of the thing.
Hmm.
So that's a double double whammy there to say I'm going to intentionally take on less consulting work, which will be making less, and I'm going to intentionally, allocate some money
Yeah.
to spend. So it's like it's a double thing that it all truly just comes down to just the mental aspect of it.
Yeah, yeah, I totally get that. It's always nicer when the bank balance increases instead of decreases.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's even a funny thing too, like to say, all right, before I even, when I first started consulting, and to say, yeah, we've got some margin set aside. We have, months and months of savings in the bank. But the funny thing is, like, it's been there for a long while, and to the point where, like, it feels permanent, where, like, I
Yes,
don't even want to use it for its intended purposes. I'm like,
yes,
no, I'm super comfortable with the fact that margin and buffer is there, and so I never want to touch it.
yes.
um,
I totally get the feeling.
yeah. So what if how did you set time aside, or how did you go? Yeah, how did you go about when you said yes to Jane? All right, cool. Yeah, let's do user list. How did you work out setting that time aside to put the effort in?
Like for us, it was clear from the start that it would be a side effort for all of us for at least quite some time. Um, so we all allocated, like, I don't know, I think in the beginning it was like 2 days a week or so that we'd focus on user lists and then have the other days for consulting work. Um, Eventually, Claire had to do some more consulting work, so she reduced her involvement a little bit and is mostly in an advisor role these days. But I'm really hoping that she'll be back on eventually. But like Jane and I were still like, let's say 50-50 between consulting and not working on the product, even though like both Jane and I focused a little bit more on the product in the last couple of weeks, and we're hoping to keep doing this. But like as you mentioned, like that buffer in the bank account, I don't want want it to go away. So eventually there has to get some more money in there. And,
Hmm.
yeah, it's always a struggle to balance like both sides of the story. Because like as you said, like there are sometimes like certain features or changes take so much mental energy that it's hard to pull them off just with 1 day a week or 2 days a
With one
week.
or 2 days. Yeah.
And yeah, I'm struggling with this as well. So I
Mm.
can totally relate to your situation.
Okay. Well, if there is a listener out there who has figured this out, please feel free to either shout really, really loud at your stereo so that we can hear it, or just simply reach out over Twitter or something.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, so did I hear that right? You're like 50-50 right now between the two?
Yeah, mostly. I think right now it's probably even a bit more focus on user list. I only have like
Uh-huh.
one ongoing consulting engagement right now, and they reduced their commitment to basically a support contract,
Okay.
and that's not quite enough to cover my monthly expenses, but I'm okay with that, like for a while. But I
Uh-huh.
definitely have to get to bring on another like something else this year
Okay.
to make my revenue goal for 2019.
Okay. So then okay, so that just if to get into a specific then, so you are going to spend some of your time like looking for for an additional client or
Yeah,
two. Okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
All right.
To be honest, I'm not like focusing super hard on that part right now, but like if something would come up that kind of fits my profile, I totally say yes to it just to,
Okay.
yeah,
All
just to
right.
keep getting some money to pay the rent.
Yeah. It's important.
Yeah, it is.
That's important. So, all right. So the launch, do you have a specific date circled on the calendar?
Yes, we have a specific date circled on the calendar, but it's not announced yet. And as I'm not
Okay.
sure
All right.
what date this episode will go live, I'm not
Yeah.
comfortable sharing it, but it's like
No, that's
within the
fine.
next couple of weeks.
Okay.
So,
Well, good luck. Are there any are y'all basically in a code freeze and you're going through with a fine-tooth comb, or is there another push of work that you're hoping to have done and tested prior to
um,
that launch?
I feel like we're in a code freeze, at least from my
Uh-huh.
perspective. There are a couple of features that Jane would like to see finished before the launch date, but I don't know. To be honest, I don't feel like implementing them in that relatively short amount of
In
time.
that short amount of time.
And
Yeah.
I'd rather go through everything and fix little small things. Like today, I just fixed a bunch of issues in GitHub and try to iron out all the kinks here and there,
Yeah.
and just make sure it's a smooth experience. Because like I've been bitten by late minute deploys in the past.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have this version up and running for a couple of days and sure
Yeah.
that it's
Yeah.
mostly working.
Yeah, I think we've all been we've all been bitten by that
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
out of interest, what stack are you using for like what tech stack are you using for feature audit?
It's on Rails, hosted on Heroku. I'm not currently using a JavaScript framework.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a I'm yeah, I'm not gonna go down that whole rabbit trail other than to say I personally find that I work um, as quickly, if not more quickly, without it. Although I am fascinated by Stimulus, which
Mm-hmm.
is the Rails version of a front end framework. So that's what I'm on right now.
Nice.
What about user list?
User list is Rails as well in the backend, but we are using Ember.js as front-end framework.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
How long have you been using Ember?
since before it was called Ember. So I started using it when it was
Okay.
still called Sprout Core 2.0.
Okay.
So it's been a while, but I wouldn't consider myself an expert. It's only like since I'm working on user list that I'm really getting into it and experiencing all parts of it on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But like I feel like the front end code base is still kind of a mess, just because I'm constantly learning things.
Well, they say, what is it, like every successful startup is built on a stack of code that every engineer is embarrassed of, or something. Like there's some pithy little quote about that where it's just like you get it started, you have this clean repo, everything's going to be perfectly organized, and then like by the time you're 3 views in, just like, what happened? So
Yeah. When
I'm gonna make
at
a
some
note.
point reality kicks in and
Yeah.
destroys all your assumptions about how things are supposed to work.
Oh, totally. I'm gonna make a note though that a future episode would be interesting to talk just about tech stacks.
Sure.
Yeah, it might be good. But I mean, well, I think Benedikt, we're about 30 minutes in.
Yep.
I think this was a good first. Let's kind of halt it here for a first episode. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. This was a good start, at least from my perspective. I mean,
Yeah.
we see what the listeners will say.
Right.
Maybe it was super
Yeah.
boring.
I hope not. So next time let's we can I'd like to hear a little bit more about, I know what you're up to right now. I'd like to learn a little bit more about how you even got started with development and startups. And so maybe we can each share just a little bit about that next time around, and a short update on what we worked on and got done over the week. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. I'd love to hear more about your backstory.
Cool. All right, Benedikt. Yep. Been a pleasure.
It has been. Talk to you next week, man.
All right. See ya.